You are listening to or watching the Process on Tap podcast slash vidcast stream. Still working on that intro. I'm joined as per usual by Hansel. You can find him on Twitter at Uber Hansen and also on his writings on Cover One. Uh, the at the Thomas DeLoss, the host of Buffalo Late Night, which is I'm sorry, Thomas, Tuesday or Monday nights.
Monday, 9:30.
Monday, 9:30. My name is Jeremy. You can find me on Twitter at Back of the Herd. And here we are, gentlemen. We took last week off because, it's boring right now. And we have lives, kind of. So, uh, first, we're going to talk about here just a couple small topics to get out of the way. And I want to get this out of the way because I think it's the most annoying one, and that's the new name of the Pittsburgh Steelers stadium. It is no longer Heinz Field, which I thought Heinz Field was the Chiefs stadium because I think I was just thinking of Patrick Mahomes and ketchup, but I was wrong. Heinz Field is the Steelers stadium. They now have a new sponsor, I guess you can call it. Do any of you guys know how to say the name correctly?
The Acrisure?
Acrisure, is that it?
Acrisure. Yeah, I don't know.
Acrisure sounds right. Either way, to me, like the thing I hate is just it is not a word. First off, I don't know what it comes from. I think I meant to look it up. I didn't. It's not a word that like rolls off your tongue. It's just like it's such a meh name. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like if this name was like a person at a party, it would be like, oh, I don't want to talk to that person at all. I'm going to avoid them at all costs. Like, I don't know what it is. I hate saying the word. I just don't like the name. So I thought it would just be interesting to bring up. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, actually, to your point right there, like it's not a word. It's a meh. Like it's nothing. Where like at least the Bill Stadium, which I know it's an insurance company, so there's all the anger about that, but at least it's Highmark is kind of a cool name if you can disconnect it. Yeah, Highmark.
Yeah.
But a Krisher or whatever the hell this is, it's bad. But I've seen every single Pittsburgh fan basically do what Bills fans did, and they're like, "We're not calling it that. It's Heinz Field. Like you can name it whatever the hell you want. We're not going to say that word."
It's
Which
just
is weird
to me.
Like they have an allegiance to ketchup. Like, sorry, we're sticking with Heinz. Go ahead. Tom.
Well, that's what's weird is they have a Heinz, like, and not even far, like spitting distance, a Heinz museum, like a huge Heinz museum, and it's literally named after John Heinz, the senator. Like it doesn't. I don't know why they didn't keep it. And then I mean they could have even gone like the PPG Paints. They have the PPG Paints Arena. They could have done PPG Paint Stadium or the PNC. Like there's just so many other names that they could have utilized that they have already in, Pittsburgh conjecture. It's a weird one. And my guess is it's just probably this company just dumped a shit ton of money towards them and was like, hey, put our name in there. So
yeah. I mean, I think we were kind of lucky to have New Era because it's a company, but it's like a company who makes like sports. Like
I was mad when that stopped.
Yeah.
I thought that was really cool.
And it's like a cool name, New Era too. So that was nice. To be honest, the year was just called the Bill Stadium. It's like that's fine too. Like why doesn't every stadium just call themselves after their team's name?
I hope our new one's Labatt's.
Labatt's.
I just don't think they have the money to do it. I just looked up like what they believe a Chris or whatever the hell this company is called paid for the stadium, and they think it's $20 million a year, which I don't know what typical naming costs are. $20 million seems like a lot.
I feel like the Bills naming rights is only like $5 million a year.
Yeah, it could be. So I wonder then if like Heinz Ketchup Company was essentially like, we'll pay you $15 million a year, and then a Krisher came in and was like, nah, we'll do 20, and then the owners were like, yeah, we'll take the extra 5. There's got to be a point though where you don't do this for the money. Like there has to be negligible losses at some point where people are like, it loses its luster now. That stadium almost loses its luster. Like who wants to go to a Krisher Field? Like, you want to go to Heinz Field. So I don't know.
Do you think there's a price where a stadium would let like Trojan like buy their naming rights?
I mean, what was it? The bidet company tried to buy the Bills naming rights. what is it? Tushy was the name of it. It would have been Tushy Stadium, and Erie County like vetoed it. They're like, no, you can't have Tushy Stadium. Like, we're not having that in our county.
So the New Era Field deal was $35 million for 7 seasons.
Okay, so yeah,
so 5 a year, yeah.
And then Acrisure, it's like paying $20 million for the Steelers too. Like, I
mean, I'm seeing between 10 and 20, like different listings of how much it costs, but still, even if it's 10, that's double what the Bills Stadium went for.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised with the new stadium if you see like potentially a sports book try to go after it, like a DraftKings or a Caesars or anything like that, like FanDuel, because they've yet to throw their name in the ring. And if you're gonna do it, like I feel like Buffalo's like that one city that you could see it could be something interesting just based on like its tailgating culture. It's a little more rough around the edges, you know, like Baltimore is M&T Bank Stadium. Like that makes sense. Buffalo, like I could almost feel like you would have the stadium named after like a folding table company. Like it would make a lot of sense.
Rubbermaid Stadium.
Rubbermaid Stadium. There we go.
I mean, like in closing, I accept like most companies that buy the names, they're finance companies or, you know, insurance, stuff like that. It's rarely anything cool. But like I just said, I just don't like the name. It sounds so weird to say. It's like, what does it even mean? And again, I know Highmark is just Highmark, but it's whatever. But I just hate the word. I hate how it feels when I say it. So, anything else about the Acrisure?
Yeah, screw the Steelers.
Every time I say it, I regret it. Yeah, fuck the Steelers. Anyhow, moving on. Guys, I mean, how much cooler to you personally, you give your individual answers, is Zach Wilson to you? Did he move up at all? Is he the same? Hansel, let's start with you.
Yeah, so maybe my opinion is a little weird on this. I don't think that this is a big, I mean, of course it's going to be made into a big deal. Like everyone's going to talk about it. I don't think it's that big a deal. Like he presumably had intercourse with an older woman. To me, that's the story. Yeah. And it's like, that's a nothing story. Granted, it's his mom's best friend. And also this hasn't been corroborated yet. Like it hasn't been proven. Though I do think it's kind of
disproven.
It hasn't been disproven
either. It's been a few days, and you think by now somebody would be like, "Oh no, it's not true." It's like
Zach Wilson has said nothing.
Yeah. Though there was like a Barstool guy, I think it was Barstool. He made like a video basically detailing the entire story, and Zach Wilson supposedly DM'd him and said, "Can you please take this down? This isn't good for me." And that guy who is a Jets fan was like, "All right, I'll take it down." He took it down, and then Zach Wilson immediately unfollowed him. So he's like, nah, I'm not playing that game. Put the video right back up. So I don't know. I can't like look at Zach Wilson and think of anything resembling sexuality. He looks like a 10-year-old. Like he looks like a little boy. Yeah. So there is a little part of this that seems a little what's the word? Like inappropriate because he's a little boy.
And it's not just because he's a Jets quarterback. The dude, like I've said it on Twitter before, he looks like he is like 15, like at the most. Like he looks like a freshman in high school.
Yeah. So to me, did his cool factor go up? Not really. He's the Jets quarterback, and he's got slick back hair.
Was it his mom's best friend or Zach Wilson's best friend's mom, or is it the same thing?
I thought it. So I interpreted it both
his mom's best friend.
But that's the way it is. Yeah.
Because I thought it was his best friend got with his ex-girlfriend, so he slept with his friend.
That right there. If he had his buddy did in fact get with his Zach Wilson's now ex-girlfriend. If Zach Wilson had then gone and got with his buddy's mom, that would have been stone cold killer move. Like that would have been like, holy shit. Like they're cutting him from the knees down.
Now his mom is good.
His mom's super attractive too.
She's very like what's the word, like she's on social media. Like she has like she goes live all the time. She's like, I remember like Zach Wilson's rookie year, he was saying like, you know, I think he had to ask his mom to like stop being so vocal about things. Like, she is very big on social media. Like, I heard her claim that she said people tell her that like her live feed is like the reason they get out of bed in the morning, which if that's why you get out of bed, then you need help. But Chris Janke is watching again. Thank you for coming back. Hello. We're talking about Zach Wilson, the mom's friend slayer. But anyways, I'm curious if like anybody's gone onto her feed to see if she said anything, because she's so, like I said, on social media, like it seems like she would say something. If she hasn't, then again, like that almost adds to it. Like, oh my God, like my son slept with my best friend. She's mad that he didn't wait till marriage, which I thought he was doing. He looks like the kind of guy. To me, he looks like the kind of guy who waits till marriage. I tweeted like, and then some. Like, not even the wedding night. He's like, I think we should take it slow. Like, even on the wedding night. I'm not ready.
I almost feel like, so this is an interesting one, and I think Zach Wilson, I could care less what happens to him. I think it's hilarious that he did it, and props to him. If he can snag his mom's best friend, well, I mean, bless his heart. But I think the situation, I wouldn't be surprised if his mom hasn't said anything, because maybe the Jets front office or PR team is like, shut the fuck up. Don't say anything. This kid's going into his second year and there's huge expectations. Let's keep him unscathed, at least for now. If the wheels fall off, well, shit, then, go ahead and lambast your son, I guess. But I think the whole situation, especially in the New York media, I think without it going too deep into detail, I think actually may have benefited Zach Wilson a little bit, because as of this point, he was kind of just nobody knew much about him. He has a little bit of upside, but he went to BYU. If he failed, he failed, whatever. They took him high, but it is what it is. But now it's almost like the he's kind of in the limelight. So if he succeeds, it's going to elevate him even higher up. I think it's an interesting story. I think it definitely makes him more watchable now that that this happened in like a very weird way. Like, it wasn't like Mike White last year where they elevated him to like a god status. Like this, Zach White, he didn't do anything right, didn't really terribly do anything wrong. I mean, he's a rookie quarterback. It's that expectation level. So I think it's interesting. I think it's going to make him, if he did it, God, like I said, God bless him, like shoot for the moon, kid.
All right. Moving on to our main topic of the night. And that is, which quarterbacks do we think give Josh Allen the most competition, or just, any competition? Let's just kind of talk about him for the MVP, because I mean, Josh was second the year before. He wasn't, I mean, he did pretty well, but there was a few quarterbacks like, after Aaron Rodgers that were all kind of playing pretty well. Like statistically we're kind of similar. So I kind of want to talk about like some of those quarterbacks and maybe some new ones this season that he might have to contend with. Now, I want to talk about two quarterbacks simultaneously because I feel like they're kind of in the same boat / situation. And they're also the two guys who have like given Josh a run for his money, and that's Aaron Rodgers and Patrick Mahomes. Aaron Rodgers has won it 2 years in a row. Like, he absolutely deserves to be mentioned. Pat Mahomes is Pat Mahomes. Like, he's always probably going to be a name in there as long as he's healthy. But to me, what I think puts them in the same boat is that they both lost their number one wide receiver, and they didn't really replace them with anybody that makes you scared. So Aaron Rodgers loses Devontae Adams. They signed Sammy Watkins. They lost Marquez Valdes-Scantling, which I wrote in my notes. I forgot to put up to you guys, but like, is Marquez Valdes-Scantling, like, I mean, how many teams is he a number two wide receiver on, would you think? I don't watch him a whole lot, but he's just not.
Maybe 3 or 4, to be honest with you. And like you said, I haven't watched a ton of him. It's tough to really say because Devontae Adams got such a lion's share of targets. I mean, he just was eating up every single game. So it's hard to say where he would stack up in terms of other rosters. And then the other part about it, I think the flip side to that coin is Aaron Rodgers elevates a lot of guys. Aaron Rodgers is willing to, throw it when maybe other quarterbacks aren't. Like, Hansel made this comment that Josh Allen's very similar to Aaron Rodgers because he's a gunslinger. He'll let his receivers or trust his receivers to go up and get the ball, and that has paid dividends to wide receivers. So it's hard to say where Scantling would actually fall because, quite frankly, he's never been in that position, but he has had a quarterback to put him in advantageous spots. So I think it could be like 3 or 4 if it worked out for him. I think in where he is now with Pat Mahomes, I think it's going to be because isn't he in Kansas City now?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So I think it'll be interesting. I think you've another quarterback that plays a very similar style of offense to Rodgers. Mahomes is able to kind of get out of the pocket and create, and he's kind of he'll throw it up there for the wide receiver to do something. So, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4.
And when we talk about like Rodgers being able to elevate people, I feel like Mahomes last couple of years has had, Byron Pringle and McCole Hardman, and I know like I think Byron Pringle had a pretty good like season his final season with the Chiefs, but McCole Hardman's like a 2-round pick. Again, Mahomes is good. He's had very good weapons, but outside of Travis Kelce and like Tyreek Hill, does he elevate guys? Like it's not like how much of a case is there for that? He's a good quarterback. Don't get me wrong. Like you said, he I think he can make some wide receivers better, but they've kind of given him some weapons, so it kind of feel like it's gone a little flat.
Yeah, to me, and this is going to be the interesting thing with Mahomes this year, and I think Mahomes is uber talented, like crazy talented, but we've never seen him like quote unquote elevate a receiver, right? Like Travis Kelce was an all-pro before Mahomes got there. Tyreek Hill was an all-pro, albeit as a punt returner, but he was still like a huge weapon as a receiver, played well with Alex Smith. So you got to take those two kind of out of the equation and say, well, he can't technically elevate them. He can make them look slightly better, but he can't take them from nothing and make them like incredible. Whereas take Josh Allen, for instance, like Stephon Diggs came and has broken all of his career bests, became an all-pro. Cole Beasley became an all-pro. John Brown had the best years of his career with the Bills. Dawson, I guess Dawson Knox and Gabe Davis, you can't really say too much about because they weren't a part of a different NFL team. But I don't know what to think of Mahomes. Like, is he going to elevate Juju Smith-Schuster? Is he going to elevate Marquez Valdes-Scantling? I don't personally think so.
You could say, though, like Dawson Knox was a converted tight end who didn't even have a touchdown.
Yeah,
in college, and here he is with Josh Allen, and it's not on Josh. Obviously, credit to like the coaching. Obviously, Josh is not a tight end coach, but so there are good coaches. But I think you could say that about him.
Yeah, and that's very good point actually. But like when it comes to elevate, so yeah, he did probably elevated Dawson Knox. My biggest thing, and I stan Aaron Rodgers all the time, probably to an annoying extent. I think he elevates receivers more than anyone in the NFL. Like you can literally stack him with 7th-round picks. He'll be fine. He'll put up MVP numbers. And so that's why I actually tweeted this out recently too. My boldest take, I don't think Davante Adams is a top 5 wide receiver in the NFL. I think we're going to see a very different Davante Adams with Derek Carr throwing him the ball than we do with Aaron Rodgers. I think he's good. I just don't think he's this elite talent that everyone seems to be like. He's the bona fide number 1 wide receiver. And I think whatever receivers that, Aaron Rodgers plays with, he's going to elevate. I think he has Sammy Watkins this year. Bet you Sammy Watkins puts up 1,000 yards this year if he stays healthy.
I was going to say Sammy Watkins got to get past week 2.
Yeah.
I was looking at Sammy Watkins' stats with the Ravens, and I think like actually his first 4 games or so, his first couple, like
tearing it up.
He was on par to like break 1,000 yards, but and he played a lot of games. I think he only missed like 1, 2, 3, but he just kind of dropped off. I think like in the middle, like I'm just going off top, but yeah, he did kind of drop off. But he had a few games. Like you said, I agree. Like Aaron Rodgers definitely elevates people. You had your bold statement with Davante Adams. Like I agree, it'll be interesting to see him with another quarterback. Mm-hmm. But also, I mean, credit to Aaron Rodgers also, like the fact that like Devontae Adams like is his number one weapon, and the season before last he still got 17 touchdowns. Like you would think if you're a defense, it's like take him away, but he's still hauled in like 17 touchdowns. So again, we're talking about how much like Aaron Rodgers elevates. I think it's an interesting statement, Hansel. Like I am interested to see how Devontae Adams does, and I put Derek Carr here, like kind of as like a wild card slash dark horse, and somebody commented on my Twitter about him as well. So if you kind of want to bounce to him for a second, I mean, Derek Carr is a perfectly fine quarterback. He's got Darren Waller, he's got Hunter Renfrow, who went off last season. Now he's got Devontae Adams to kind of fill in that wide receiver spot that was left void by a certain wide receiver. I forget his name, but he had some issues. So it's possible, but also like with the Josh McDaniels, like is McDaniels like the same thing as Belichick? Like were you just like so much better because of Brady? Like because I mean the Patriots offense didn't really look that great, with McDaniels like sans Brady, you know what I mean? So I feel like it's gonna be interesting. Like the eyes are gonna be on Josh McDaniels as well.
Side note with Derek Carr, I feel like Derek Carr is like off-brand Pop-Tarts. It's like fine. It's like nothing great.
Yeah, like if you got him, you're like, oh, you got okay, that's fine. It's not terrible, but it's like I would have preferred, the Josh Allen Pop-Tarts, but
right,
the Mahomes Pop-Tarts, not the Mahomes Pop-Tarts because there's probably ketchup inside of them. But
Chris makes a good point, by the way. When guys leave Rodgers, they fall off the cliff. Geronimo Allison's perfect example of that. I think you see Jordy that though, Nelson. Right? You see a lot of guys that
from the Packers to the Raiders, like Devontae Adams.
Right. You see that happen a lot, though. I mean, quite frankly, there is a certain breed of quarterback that is able to take wide receivers and really make them shine and make them the best that they've been. The one I'm interested in, I don't think Devontae Adams is the one I'm thinking. I think Tyreek Hill is going to be put on display this year as to, is he as good? He's fast. Absolutely. But Patrick Mahomes also creates time for Tyreek Hill to be able to find more space. And you saw that a lot. Same thing, with Travis Kelce. I think it'll be interesting now to see how good he really is when you have Tua, who, quite frankly, is not Patrick Mahomes even light. I think,
despite what Tyreek Hill wants to say about him.
Right. I think it's going to be the type of year where Tyreek Hill is probably still going to be drafted in the first 2 rounds. Maybe. I think
they're gonna want that to look like a smart decision, so they're gonna fucking force feed.
Yeah.
If anything, like they're gonna give him his targets. They're gonna give him they're gonna try and give him numbers for sure.
Well, they can try to, but it's all dependent on Tua. And I think what's going to end up happening, we had this conversation with, when we went over the schedule and all that. I think if the Dolphins start off raucous, which I wouldn't be surprised at all, I don't even know if Tua would have the chance to continue on. And I could see Bridgewater elevating Tyreek to where he's supposed to be. Because I think, first off, I think Bridgewater should be the starting quarterback. I think Bridgewater is significantly more talented than Tua. But then again, I think they're both shit.
So we talked about Aaron Rodgers. We talked about Mahomes a little bit more on Mahomes because I feel like most of that was Aaron Rodgers. But again, lost Tyreek Hill. He has Travis Kelce, who he's getting older, which I think I mentioned last year. Like it seems like he got old like really fast. Like all of a sudden one season it was like, oh, like he's getting. I feel like you started hearing that a lot more. So I'm sure he'll be fine with Kelce, but wasn't. I'm sorry. I'm totally drawing a blank. Juju, sorry, was it like his rookie season? He did very well, right? When there was still like Antonio Brown. Then he kind of started dealing with injuries and Ben Roethlisberger just being old. So I mean, like he's a fine receiver. I don't know like how scary he is. Like maybe he's somebody that Mahomes could elevate. Like, what do you guys think about that?
I mean, I will say, like, if you look at their depth chart, just the names they have on it, I think that most teams would be very happy with who the Chiefs have, which is Travis Kelce, Valdez-Scantling, who we mentioned, Mecole Hardman. Mecole Hardman's fine. Juju Smith-Schuster, who people for a while thought was going to be a superstar in the NFL. He's not terrible. He hasn't been terrible the past few years. Last year he got hurt and didn't do so well in the couple games he played. But then on top of that, they also have Josh Gordon is still on the roster. They got Sky Moore, I think, in the second round, who had a first-round grade. And then they got Justin Ross as an undrafted free agent who people supposedly said if he wasn't injured, he was a for sure first-round pick, but he was hurt. So they kind of stack with talent at the wide receiver position on paper, I would say. I think a lot of people are kind of underestimating that, but it's not like all that's fine and dandy. Like all these players I just named, it's still not Tyreek Hill. Like Tyreek Hill fit Patrick Mahomes so well. Thomas brought it up. Like Mahomes can move in the pocket extremely well, and he is somewhat mobile. Like he can run for first downs if he needs to, but him moving and actually extending plays is exactly what works well with Tyreek Hill. Like, okay, Tyreek's running down the field. He's not open. Mahomes moves out of the pocket. Tyreek breaks back to him. That's a play that they ran over and over again just because they were so in sync. That's gone now. Like people are going to double Travis Kelce every single play and be like, all right, we're going to single Juju because he's not as dangerous one-on-one as Tyreek Hill is. So it's going to completely change the complexion. Like his superstar is doubled every play. He doesn't have two superstars anymore. He has one and then a bunch of good players. So it's gonna be really interesting to see how he handles that. From an MVP conversation, I will say I do think the perception is that his talent around him has gone down. So if he performs at the same level, I think that the voters are going to be like, well, he did it without Tyreek Hill. Like that's more impressive than say Josh Allen doing it with Gabe Davis and Stephon Diggs, who he had last year, if they perform at the same level.
Yeah, you mentioned the possibly understated draft additions that they had, but I would kind of like to counter. And again, I'm not saying it's going to keep happening, but somebody tweeted like a few months ago about just how not great the Chiefs draft picks have been like since Pat Mahomes. So I mean, it's like it's almost like a Bill Belichick thing. It's like, are they suddenly going to turn around and have a good draft? Like, recent history is saying no. I'm kind of going off of like some recency bias here, but yeah, that like just to kind of counteract that, it'll be interesting to see how well that works.
I mean, looking at their weapons they've picked up since 2009, Mahomes got drafted in 8. Oh, wait, sorry. Mahomes got drafted in 17, but didn't really play until 18. And since then, they've drafted for wide receivers, Tremont Smith. I don't know what Tremont Smith has done in his career. He has 1 catch, it seems, or 0 catches. Sorry.
Okay.
Then Mecole Hardman, who's fine.
Yeah.
Like, right. He's not great. He's just a fine player.
But somebody that you would have thought by now would have like broken out more.
Yeah. Second round pick.
Yeah.
Too. And then you got Clyde Edwards-Helaire was a first round pick. He's been fine, not a stud out of the backfield. And
he had a really good debut game, and I feel like
Yeah.
people just ate that up. And then he was just after that, like a couple more good games, but
yeah. And then the last player, the last skill player they've drafted is Cornell Powell in 2021. He didn't even make the roster. Yeah, you're kind of right. Yeah, they haven't drafted very well from the skill position this year. They did get Sky Moore, so I guess we're gonna have to see what he is.
Thomas, you want to jump in and add on?
Yeah, I mean, I think I like to echo what Hansel said. I think if Pat Mahomes puts up numbers like last year or better with I would say a less qualified cast, or deemed less qualified, I think it will be impressive. I think it's the tough stuff is there's so much context to this, and the variables are really questionable because you could have a million things happen, and and same thing with a lot of these guys. I like Pat Mahomes, and I think Travis Kelce is the one variable to this because Travis Kelce is a surefire, like first ballot Hall of Famer. And he's been proven you could put almost anybody on him, and it's hard to cover the dude. So it's hard to see until he doesn't have, Kelsey or Hill. It'll be interesting to see what happens. But now without Hill, it obviously a lot more weight, and the onus is on Travis Kelsey to kind of carry the offense outside of obviously Mahomes. I think you might see a different style of offense from the Chiefs just because they're going to have to run something. They might do a lot of short yardage, because Juju Smith-Schuster is more of like a slot right over the middle style wide receiver. He's not an X. So I don't suspect you're going to see him lining out on the outside all that often. And Scantling, I mean, he's fast, but he's not Tyreek. So I think the real question is what Kelsey can do. But I agree. I think Mahomes would be up there as one of those guys that could potentially guard Allen. But thus far, he hasn't really guarded Allen from the MVP conversation yet. It's just been Rodgers and really Allen and Brady. That's kind of been the real question mark.
I'm gonna pull up Chris Kame said he feel like KC's wide receivers are similar to New England's, a bunch of number 2 and 3 guys, no number 1, which I agree with. And like you said, Thomas, they brought in guys, but nobody who can continue like the Tyreek Hill role. Right. And I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that he was a big part of their offense. So I feel like a lot of changes are definitely going to be made.
Yeah, I think you see a lot of these organizations, and I just don't quite understand it, is they don't want to pay these guys, right? Like a Tyreek Hill or a Devontae Adams, or you're seeing these players moving all over the place, and these GMs are overthinking. Like, Veach has done a great job in KC. I mean, he truly has, but I don't think you can quite like, it's hard to put in context what Tyreek Hill really means to a team. Like, he is so dynamic, like beyond, he's the fastest wide receiver in the NFL. His hands are unbelievable, and he's damn near impossible to tackle because he's not tall. He's short and fast, and I just feel like the same thing with Devontae Adams. Devontae Adams is a nightmare because he's huge and he's fast. And he's got incredible hands. I just feel like you see these GMs that are they're making decisions that have zero foresight, which for me makes zero sense because, when you look at the Bills are like, why the hell? We have the band together. Why are we going to get rid of what's working? Like, it just doesn't make sense. You got rid of Rodgers and Mahomes' number 1 target and expect it's going to work with, you're going to replace one really good guy with the volume of 3 that have yet to prove it on a case by case or on a week by week volume. I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of either scenario. I think both are probably going to have some drop offs, even as good as Mahomes and Rodgers are for elevating. I think they're going to be hard pressed to replicate in a vacuum what Devontae Adams and Tyreek Hill can be for those offenses.
I looked it up real quick. I was curious about like Devontae Adams and Tyreek Hill's ages. Like Devontae Adams is 29, Tyreek Hill is 28. The thing to me, it's like, sure, they're getting a little bit older, and maybe you're just like, like the Chiefs and the Packers, like they're getting older. Like I want to like kind of like the Cole Beasley release. It's like I remember I think Joe Marino. Like I like what he said. Like they'd rather be a year ahead of it than a year behind, so maybe that's what these were doing. But at the same time, it's like both those teams drafted those guys. Like you drafted those wide receivers, like developed them, and they performed. Like, isn't that what you do when that happens? When they're successful, it's like you re-sign them, you extend them, like you bring them back. It was mentioned before. I feel like maybe there's more to the Tyreek Hill being traded because it's just like why would you let that guy, like, who is standing in the way other than Patrick Mahomes and maybe Travis Kelsey? Like, who's really standing in the way of like signing Tyreek Hill? I know they got a couple guys like taking paychecks, but it's not like there's that much on their offense.
And they could definitely have worked around it if they needed to. They just chose not to. Like, literally this entire offseason with Brandon Beane's been like, there's no way he can afford that. Suddenly he has a $200 million that he can just spend. Like, there's ways to do it. And like Thomas said, like Brett Veach has done a really good job there. So he could have, if he wanted to, he just didn't. And that's like a really odd thing. Actually, sorry, I just pulled up Tyreek Hill's contract. So he signed a 5-year contract with the Dolphins, but there's no way he's playing his 5th year. So
I thought it was 3. Sorry.
No. I mean, it looks to be 5. There might be something weird here, but listen to these cap hits. This year, 6.5 million. Next year, 31. The following year, 25. The following year, 28. And then year 5, his cap hit is $50 million.
What?
Like, he's not playing year 5. There's no way he's playing year 5.
That would put him at 33. Right?
Yeah. It's absurd.
That's crazy. Like, because I mean, if you just think if like for some reason this 1 year, like he doesn't work out, you're just like, oh God.
Yeah.
I mean, it has to, like, I'm looking at the dead cap hit. I mean, next year, Hansel, his dead cap is 46 million.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Chris
After
Jenke
that,
just said he'll
easier.
sign an extension.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Side note, Buffalo Bills just announced on their Twitter account that all training camp tickets are sold out.
Mm-hmm.
And they will be announcing tickets this coming week for the red and blue practice at the stadium.
Got it. Breaking news here.
Breaking news.
All right. Are you guys okay with our Rodgers and Mahomes chat? Any final comments on that?
No, I think that those two are probably the primary challengers for Allen to go after the MVP. There's obviously still, like, we could talk about Justin Herbert, we could talk about Joe Burrow, we could talk about Matthew Stafford even. Like, there's probably 6 or 7 quarterbacks that could go after the MVP. The one that I'll say that I'll just throw out there.
I have more. It wasn't just those two.
Oh yeah.
Sorry.
So, but the one that worries me, and I presume he's on your list, is Tom Brady. Not because I think Tom Brady's going to have a better year than Josh Allen, but if Tom Brady has even remotely close to as good a year as Allen, so say he has 5 less touchdowns and like 2 more turnovers, and then every other stat's similar. So Allen had a better year, but Brady's right there with him. Brady will win it. They'll give it to him. It's his last year.
Now,
like, he will win it.
Question: should I have put Brady in like the same tier as Rodgers and Mahomes because he's coming back with some of the same weapons? He's not gonna. I think they said Chris Godwin is expected to start week 1, but he doesn't have Gronk. He doesn't have OJ Howard. I know he lost one of his linemen to retirement, so it's roughly the same. But is he coming back with like just as good as weapons, or no? Definitely not.
Yeah, I mean,
he's still Tom Brady. Obviously.
When you have Mike Evans, that's an unbeatable force. And quite frankly, at the end of the day, whatever Tom Brady does, I mean, you could put anybody around Tom Brady. He had dog shit in New England for all the years. How do I say this? Tom Brady's had dog shit for his entire time in New England, and he excelled. So it doesn't really matter what happens. I don't think it's Tom Brady's last year. Tom Brady's going to be in Miami next year. Just saying. It's hot take. I don't know if it's true or not. I know people keep talking about it. I think Tom Brady, I think Hansel, you're right, is probably a number one in terms of competition for Josh Allen this year. Because I think, has Tom Brady won a regular season MVP yet?
Yeah, he's won 2, I think.
Right.
Chris says the Bucks signed Russell Gage. Was he on the Falcons?
Yeah, I like him. He's a really good 3. Okay. And he'll be their 3rd wide receiver. Yeah.
So that'll be nice. Chris also mentioned Lamar. I wrote that down. I'm going to add him to a different tier. So I have Brady. I put Brady in the same tier as Burrow and Herbert, but I doubled. That's why I kind of asked if he should have been the last one, because Burrow and Herbert are guys that I feel like played very well last year. They're coming back with pretty much the same weapons. I think Burrow lost his tight end, but his tight end I don't think was his number one. It was kind of like probably I would say at the lower end of his favorites probably. So he's still got all of his wide receivers. He's still got Joe Mixon. I'm pretty sure they have a better offensive line going into that. Justin Herbert, I mean, he's still got his weapons. They drafted Isaiah Spiller, I believe, which I know Austin Eckler is probably like getting up there in age. Like, I don't know. I had him in fantasy, so I know he definitely like produces. I don't think I would have spent like a second round pick on a running back if I had Austin Eckler, like until I knew like Austin Eckler's like wheels were about to fall off. I would just, I mean, he can run, he can catch. I would just have him out there like all the time.
Yeah.
So they do have another running back who could be good, but again, it's like he's taking snaps away from Austin Eckler, who I think is a very proven weapon. But they have a better defense, but that's going to give him a better winning record, which will probably help him in the MVP case. So yeah, Burrow, Herbert. We talked about Brady, so let's talk about those two. What do you guys think about those two?
I think the thing about it is, and both of them, I think it perfectly plays together for that reason. I suspect as good as the Bengals offense was last year, I don't foresee them replicating that, lightning in a bottle again.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, as good as Burrow. I mean, I could be completely wrong. I mean, Burrow could stun us all and come back and just be an absolute monster in this coming season.
Is there a reason you want to like elaborate why you think they like can't like replicate that?
If you look at history, quarterbacks that come out the way he did, they don't typically replicate the same level of success in terms of them being able to continue on that platform. Burrow's a great quarterback. No, don't get me wrong. But
so just naturally, he just might take like a little bit of a step back at the least.
Right. And if you looked at Burrow in the game against what was it? Against the Chiefs, and then against the Rams in the Super Bowl, he didn't look super good.
No,
it was kind of a shaky footing for him. And I the reason I said, alongside Herbert's perfect because Herbert, as talented as he is, and he has a ton of talent around him, has yet to prove anything either. I mean, he hasn't been able to get in the playoffs. So you've got two guys that really haven't proven it consistently. Obviously, Burrow still needs to prove it to do it back to back, and then Herbert has yet to do it really at all outside of the regular season. But even then, the Chargers just keep shooting themselves in the foot. So, I mean, those two quarterbacks, as talented as they are, I think are exactly what Josh Allen was in his first couple of years, where they looked at him and they said, well, he hasn't proven shit. And that's really what they've done at this point. And until they can, I think they're that third or fourth tier, of MVP consideration where they'd have to have like I think if Herbert came in and brought the Chargers to the AFC Championship, I think he's probably the MVP because he would have made a monster jump. And the only reason that Allen didn't get it 2 years ago when he made that monster jump and brought the Bills to the AFC Championship is because Rodgers was unfucking real.
Yeah.
That's it. And that was the only really reason why, with that trajectory that Allen had, that jump, he didn't get that accolade. And I think that's what you would see with Herbert is if he made that jump, you would see that accolade alongside his name. And I think if Burrow won the Super Bowl last year, you would see him going into this year. Probably, my guess would be the odds-on favorite to win the MVP. But the problem is he kind of looked like shit in the Super Bowl. So they were like, he just kind of gracefully slid in there. And quite frankly, I think people looked at the Bengals and they're like, well, the Bills didn't make it. That's why the Bengals made the Super Bowl. Because if the Bills had made it against the Bengals, quite frankly, and I've said this before, I think the Bills win the Super Bowl. I think the Bills wipe the floor with the Bengals and the Bills wipe the floor with the Rams.
Yeah.
I don't know if I like completely agree because I mean, I don't know how many people actually expected the Bengals to beat the Chiefs. I think their defense showed up.
That was like one of the weirdest games I've ever watched. Like I had money on that. I was like, Chiefs are gonna steamroll them, and then in the first half, the Chiefs
and they kind of did.
Them.
Yeah,
absolutely. I was like, I was with my parents or something, and I was like, good. I won a few bucks, can buy some drinks tonight. And then they came out in the second half, and it was like, what the hell's going on? Like, is this just happening to me because I placed this bet? And then I don't know. Mahomes looked absolutely horrendous, like literally terrible in the second half. I just can't see Josh Allen in that moment looking as bad as Mahomes did, because honestly, we've never seen Allen look. Mahomes looked worse in that game than Allen's looked since his rookie season in the second half.
Did Mahomes' brother like dance on an Indian burial ground at halftime or something? Like,
had to have done something real bad.
Yeah, like that was pretty unreal. And like props to the Bengals defense. I'm not trying to put it all on like just Mahomes like deciding to play poorly. Like they played well. But to be fair though, MVP is about the regular season.
Yeah.
I know we're getting a little sidetracked, but yeah, I think it was strange that
just to add to the Burrow and Herbert kind of topic. So like Justin, you have to make the playoffs to win MVP. You can't miss the playoffs and win MVP. Like that just isn't going to happen in the modern NFL. And Justin Herbert in a game that like they just needed to tie. They didn't even need to win it. He didn't look good. Like I know people will be like, oh, he had 3 touchdowns. He had almost 400 yards. It's like, yeah, he also threw the ball 60 times. Like he didn't look great in that game. I watched that whole entire Raiders-Chargers game, and Herbert just looked fine. And so essentially, if he wins that game, I think he also has that kind of jump where people are like, oh, maybe the Chargers, maybe Justin Herbert is the favorite to win MVP. The one thing that I think Herbert has going for them, if you go back and look at these quarterbacks' game logs, Herbert's pretty consistent throughout the season. He had a couple low stretches, not really long, high or low stretches, though. It's pretty consistently good. If you go and look at Joe Burrow, his last 4 games, he had 11 touchdowns and 0 turnovers. If you take those out of the equation, like those last 4 games, he had 23 touchdowns and 14 turnovers. So to me, when I look at that, I say, if Joe Burrow had to have this crazy stretch that's really hard to replicate to do that like dominant stretch, I don't know if we're going to see Burrow be able to do that again this year or do it consistently. Like Burrow looked bad at points last season, and people are just choosing to forget that. The 4 weeks prior to those last 4 games he played, he had 3 touchdowns and 5 turnovers. So like he had ups and downs. He has to be consistent, but I don't know if he can consistently be that ceiling. And if he's not consistently that ceiling, he's just not on the same level as Josh Allen, Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady, and Justin Herbert.
You said that was Burrow's last 4 games. He had 11 touchdowns.
11 touchdowns. Yeah.
Did
not counting playoffs, obviously.
Did it say who those teams were that he played against?
Yep. The 49ers, the Broncos, the Ravens, and the Chiefs.
Decent, not bad defenses at all. So I was curious if they're just.
You better hope Jamar Chase doesn't go down. I'll tell you that much. Jamar Chase carried that offense.
Yeah, I think Jamar Chase is better than Devontae Adams, but that's just me.
So Chris asks, will the improved offensive line help Burrow? Like I mentioned that at the beginning, he's got a better offensive line. So imagine him getting sacked not 52 times and actually being able to do something with those attempts instead. How much was his poor play a function of his O-line? But and even again, as far as he played well enough. Like Hansel, you read off like the last 4 games. 11 turnovers. So despite a poor O-line, he still put up some like pretty good numbers and made it to the Super Bowl. I don't think that means poor O-lines are fine. You can get by with them. I don't think that at all. But yeah.
I mean, the crazy thing. So Joe Burrow definitely, his O-line was very, very bad. It was not good. But Joe Burrow is also to blame for that sack total. Like big time. I constantly say that sacks are a quarterback stat because Josh Allen was sacked significantly less. In fact, Josh was sacked 26 times to Burrow's 51 times, even though Josh had more dropbacks, had more pressures and more dropbacks. So Josh Allen had 126 more dropbacks and was pressured on 25.7% of his dropbacks. Burrow was only pressured on 24.5. So if sacks are not a quarterback stat, like how did Allen cut his total in half with more chances to be sacked at a higher rate? Like Burrow has to take the blame for a lot of those sacks. 51 is a massive number.
I would just say like a little in his defense. I mean, he didn't play his full rookie season,
True.
which I think makes like this second, like, still somewhat of a rookie in the beginning, still inexperienced. So maybe he's going to hold on to the ball a little longer than he should.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just a little defense. I'm not trying to, stand him or anything at all. But Josh Allen absolutely is a beast. It's funny because when people want to compare like Josh Allen, Pat Mahomes, it was like somebody tweeted recently, like Josh Allen can do everything Pat Mahomes can do. Pat Mahomes is not going to stiff arm. Yeah. Like I haven't seen him stiff arm like a linebacker or a defensive end and then like create a positive play out of it. So absolutely, like he's a beast. There's no other quarterback who's going to do that. So I think it's Pat Mahomes. He's still a great quarterback, but absolutely. So Burrow, Herbert, Brady, do you guys have any final comments on them?
No.
All right. My last tier is just kind of like wild card guys, maybe just to throw out. Chris mentioned him. I'm going to we'll talk about him first. Lamar Jackson. Chris, you actually said that you think he's going to have a good year. He's playing in a contract year, but they traded away their best wide receiver. And what? Like, I don't think Lamar Jackson is in that great of a position.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what Rashad Bateman does. I mean, Mark Andrews is his number one target, regardless if they got rid of I can never remember
Marquise
Hollywood.
Brown.
Thank you. I can never so inconsequential. I agree with Chris. Before this, I was in a space and I had a conversation about Lamar Jackson, and I like Lamar Jackson. I think he's incredibly talented. I think he needs to become a more prolific passer to change the narrative about him. I think Lamar has to prove not only to himself but to all the doubters that he's more than what he says he is. And I think as good as his MVP season was, and I said this, I think Josh Allen has had, I think last year and the year before was better. What he was able to do was better. And that's just my perspective. I'm a Bills fan, so whatever, who cares? But could I see Lamar Jackson win the MVP? No. And the reason I say that is Lamar Jackson would have to have, quite frankly, the greatest season that a quarterback has ever had. And the reason I say that is all eyes are on Josh Allen, and Josh Allen's stats are going to be out of this world this year. I foresee Josh Allen passing 5,000 yards this year. I would not be surprised if the offense just absolutely explodes because the defense is going to be better, which is going to mean that Josh Allen's going to have more opportunity to play with the ball.
I kind of want to like add on to when you say like all eyes are on Josh Allen. I keep telling myself this, but Josh Allen was on the losing side of a playoff game, and he's being talked about like he was the winner in some sense. It's crazy because I mean, like Mahomes had a good game too, but it's just crazy like how much attention like Josh Allen got over a game that he lost.
Yeah.
And Lamar Jackson, again, I know playoffs have nothing to do with it, but he hasn't played very well in the playoffs. But as far as regular seasons go, I know he was hurt last year, but even the year before when he played 15 out of 16 games, his stats, and I'm not trying to stat watch, but 26 passing touchdowns, 2,700. Of course, you add in his rushing yards. That's totally fair. Add in his rushing yards and rushing touchdowns, then he gets into about low 30s, but nothing like his MVP season.
No, but if you look at Josh Allen in the course of his career thus far, the progression of his playoff games from the Houston game and then into the Colts game, and if you look through the ladder and how he's done trajectory wise in the playoffs, he's gotten better every time. Every time he plays under the lights, he gets better. He steps it up every single time, from whether it was, that Dallas game on Thanksgiving, the Saints game last year. Josh Allen he defies odds and he rewrites the narrative on himself. And thus far, last year against, the Patriots, he literally played the perfect game. And then the game after that, he willed the Bills. Quite frankly, They if I will say he willed them to win that game.
Final 2 minutes.
Right. He willed them to win that game. And he did everything he could in his power to win that game. And as of this point, until Josh Allen is stopped, which he hasn't been, he should be the odds-on favorite. Because if he comes out and plays the way he did at the end of last season, he's going to kick the shit out of teams. Because he's playing, and you saw it. When Josh Allen plays angry, Josh Allen is a force. And Hansel said it weeks ago. I don't even remember what episode we were in. But he said Josh Allen might be the best quarterback of all time when he's at his peak. And it's true. Josh Allen can do things that most quarterbacks can't do. When he is playing, when Josh Allen plays that like out of body, just not sugar rush Josh Allen, but Josh Allen that's just like everything's working. He is so goddamn difficult to play against because he's hard to tackle. He's fast. He can get out of the pocket. He creates. He can stiff arm a guy to get off of him. He can break just normal, one-handed tackles. Like he can just do so many things. And that's just on top of the fact that he's a good quarterback. So he's such an anomaly in and of himself that if he can continue this ascension that he's had every year, and that he really has, he's just the most unbelievable ascension as an NFL quarterback. This year, it should be the year that Josh Allen puts his stamp on, like, I'm that good. I'm that guy. I'm that Super Bowl MVP. Because last year, he took a team that just couldn't close it out and did things that no one's ever done before. And the only reason that the Mahomes was able to do it is because the Bills defense was dog shit and they were just playing on their heels.
Yeah. I gotta mention this. Chris mentions how we didn't punt, and obviously it's because we had a terrible punter. So I'm starting to worry if maybe adding Matt Araiza was a bad thing, because now if Josh is like, if I don't convert this third down, no biggie. Well, we got a good punter. Whereas before it was like, I have to convert this third down because Matt Hawk is dog shit and he's literally going to just punt it 15 yards. So hopefully that's not the case. Obviously it isn't. So we talked about Lamar.
Just to throw one more thing out there with Lamar and to the point of like, so Lamar has to beat out Josh Allen to win MVP. Among other people, right? Like Josh is not guaranteed to win MVP. He's going to have a special year to do that because it requires a special season to win that award. But if I'm just, again, looking at stats here, if you look at Lamar's past 2 seasons, right? His total stats, passing and rushing, he's putting up a less like totals than Josh's just passing. Like take away Josh's rushing entirely. Let's ignore the fact that he can run the ball well. Combine Lamar's rushing and passing, his stats are well below Allen's passing. So like it just, he's not, unless Lamar has a special season like he did 2 years ago now, where he was a unanimous MVP for a reason. He was an absolute dominant force. Unless he has that season, he's not winning MVP, nor is he going to be in the conversation.
And people keep saying, he had a great MVP season, but it was like, is Greg Roman's like, system with him, like, is it figured out? Like, have they figured out how to slow him down? And again, like statistically, it kind of seems like it. On top of that, they traded away their number 1 wide receiver, and it's just, again, like I think he's got a bit of an uphill battle. Chris mentioned that he's playing in a contract year. Did they not pick up his 5th year option?
This is his 5th year, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
This would be Josh's 5th year too.
Right. Okay, they're both going. Okay, that's right. That was last year. Forget my mistake.
They were drafted in 2018.
Okay. Yep, that's totally right. I just totally forgot. Anywho, so there's Lamar. I'm gonna let you guys kind of throw in a wild card or someone that you feel like is worth mentioning. If you don't have one, I can throw out a couple more. We kind of mentioned Derek Carr, so I don't think we really need to harp on that. He doesn't deserve that much talking time.
I think the one that's going to be interesting, just because of 2, I'll put them together, is Derrick Henry and Jonathan Taylor. Just because Derrick Henry prior to injury was like almost a shoo-in to win the MVP. I mean, his stats were absolutely unreal. Some of the stuff we've never seen an NFL athlete, not just a running back, but an athlete ever do. And he was doing it at such a criminal pace. And then Jonathan Taylor basically like picked up where he left off, like took the soul out of Derrick Henry's broken body and decided to go with it. I think those two are the one that I think could be sneaky, based on what's going on, is Russell Wilson. I think Russell Wilson now with Javonte, I think Javonte Williams is super good. I think he's going to have a breakout year. I think Javonte Williams could be top 5 running back in the NFL this year. But with that wide receiver core, I think that wide receiver core is going to do wonders for him. And the ball in Denver carries a hell of a lot further than the ball does in Seattle. And Russ has probably the prettiest deep ball in the NFL. So that thing's going to fly like a rocket. So I would not be surprised if Russell Wilson has a year like he did when he won the Super Bowl with Seattle, where he just comes alive. And especially in a division where they're going to eat each other alive, if they can stay on the right side of 500, they might do themselves justice and slide into the playoffs. And I don't know. I just think he could potentially be a resurgence after kind of squandering the last couple of years in Seattle.
I think the big thing with like the AFC West quarterbacks, those 4 quarterbacks, is the one that wins that division, the team that wins that division, that's the quarterback that's in the conversation. The other 3 are not in the conversation. You got to win the division. If you don't, then how could they put that one over the one below? Even though, again, wins are not a quarterback stat, but it does factor into the MVP totals. I'm going to go super dark horse here, like big time dark horse that I've never seen anyone talk about him winning MVP. And I don't think he's necessarily going to win it, but I can see a path to him winning it, is Jameis Winston on the Saints. I have been super high on the Saints all off season. I've been told I'm a moron for saying it. I think that they could easily win that division, keep Tom Brady out of the playoffs. I think at a minimum, they're a wild card team. And Jameis Winston has so many freaking weapons around him. If he plays up to his full potential and doesn't turn the ball over 50 times, he could put up numbers that keep him in the MVP conversation. We're talking Alvin Kamara, Michael Thomas, Jarvis Landry, Chris Olave. Like, those 4 guys right there are a quarterback's dream. Like, Kamara can catch out of the backfield and the other 3 are studs. So I could see a path to Jameis winning MVP. He was playing really well before he got hurt. After he got hurt, the Saints absolutely fell off a cliff. It was embarrassing to watch them play football. Yet they still somehow were in the playoff conversation come season's end without a quarterback that could complete a pass. So again, you got to win your division essentially to win the MVP. I think the Saints have a very good shot at winning that division. And if Jameis Winston can kind of carry them there, maybe he's an MVP.
All right. Yeah, I'd say that's a pretty dark horse candidate for sure. One more that I had written down, Kyler Murray. I mean, he started off last season pretty hot. I think he missed he missed a couple games with an injury that I think most people just miss one game for or something like that. I think there's
going to be tough with DeAndre Hopkins being
true. I forgot about
6
that.
games.
He lost DeAndre Hopkins. I know they got rid of Christian Kirk, but they did trade for somebody, right? What did they do?
AJ the Cardinals?
No. AJ Brown went to.
Oh, Zach Ertz is on the Cardinals.
Yeah. Didn't they trade for a wide receiver?
Oh, they got Hollywood Brown.
That's right.
Marquise
they
Brown,
have Marquise Brown. That's true. I forgot about DeAndre Hopkins. So to be honest, did they bring back Zach Ertz? Is he still on contract with them? So they have Zach Ertz. They have Marquise Brown. Do they even have anybody else to worry
AJ
about?
Green.
AJ, yeah.
Is AJ Green still there, or was he just on a short contract?
I think he's there. I think he signed 2.
Yeah. So I forgot about a couple of those things. So, and D Hop is missing what, 8 games?
6.
So he's missing a good chunk. That's true. For those first 6 games, I really don't think he's going to be able to mix it up. Plus, Kyler's being such a little whiny bitch. I think he's going to have that all up in his head. Green resigned or retired? Chris?
AJ Green.
He's either on the roster.
Resigned, not resigned. It's spelled the same way, right?
Yeah. So, yeah, of course.
Okay.
No hyphen.
One of them needs a hyphen to break it up.
Yeah.
He resigned. He's like, I'm quitting my position as wide receiver.
Well, re-signed and resigned. Re-signed is hyphen. Re-hyphen signed. Resigned is without the hyphen.
I thought they were spelled the same.
But yeah, no, I would be Jameis, I think is interesting. I actually don't think that's not as crazy. Like I gave you googly eyes when I heard it, but thinking about it, it actually makes a hell of a lot of sense. There ain't much going on in the NFC, and he does have kind of a weird kind of like Candyland style, or not Candyland, shoots and ladders style, like that one ladder that goes straight to the top. Like I feel like that's Jameis Winston's path. Like it's just everything working out perfect. I think Kyler Murray in a vacuum could be really good. I don't believe in Kyler Murray like other people do. I think Kyler Murray is, I don't know. His height, I think, is so detrimental to him. I think that one pass he had against the Bills was just so lucky.
Oh, of course.
So lucky. You do it 10 times, right? You might get 2 of them right. But I think, like we've talked about, and we're homers because we're Bills fans, but Josh Allen's going to be a really hard one to beat this year because one, and I think there is something to be said that when it comes to the MVP voting, if you're a darling prior to the season, it helps your case. And people are already looking at Josh Allen. Like Josh Allen hasn't been the odds-on favorite going into any season yet. He is now, and the Bills are for the Super Bowl. So they're going to be, all eyes are on him going into the season. And Josh really just has to have like a trajectory like he had last year. And if he does that or better, it's going to be hard to beat, really, because the Bills are probably going to find themselves as the 1 seed pretty easily, unless, like we've talked about before, I think the Colts are a sneaky team this year. And maybe that's somebody that we have to look at is Matty Ryan. Matt Ryan on a really good Colts team, if he can harness what he did back when he had Roddy White and Julio Jones when, the Falcons were really talented. Maybe Matt Ryan has a nice little comeback season. I don't know if he'll have an MVP season, but who knows? But I think Josh Allen should be the surefire. Like, I would be very surprised if he doesn't win the MVP if everything goes exactly as it's supposed to.
I agree. All right. Any last, you mentioned Matt Ryan, obviously. Final names to throw in just quickly before we head out. Any that we may have glossed over. Chris, if you got one to throw out there, let us know. I don't have any.
I'll throw out one thing that I think keeps Allen from MVP. So not necessarily a player, but something. It's interceptions. MVPs, like the MVP quarterback, when you look at those stats that they have, they do not throw interceptions. Like I was like looking through all the MVPs, and they're all 10 or less about. And with that in mind, like Allen's going to throw interceptions, and that's fine. Like he threw 15 last year, I think.
Yeah.
And that's fine by me because the Bills are going to win games because Allen's going to put up gaudy numbers. But when you put up those interception totals, it's hard to kind of compete with like the efficiency stats of other quarterbacks. Like Aaron Rodgers last year had 4 interceptions. He threw 4 interceptions on the entire year, which is absurd. That's so crazy. Then when people go look at those stats and they say, well, Aaron Rodgers had 4 turnovers. He had 40 touchdowns. He had a 10-1 touchdown to interception, touchdown to turnover ratio. Like he has to win. How can we have Josh Allen in that conversation when Josh Allen went 42 touchdowns to 18 turnovers, right? Like it's still an impressive number, but that turnover number, it reduces passer rating, it reduces QBR, it reduces a bunch of efficiency stats that these voters look at. And again, historically, if you throw interceptions, they don't care about fumbles lost. Why? I have no freaking idea. It drives me nuts. But they don't care about fumbles lost. They care about interceptions. If Josh throws more than 15, he's not winning MVP.
Chris mentioned another quarterback that I keep forgetting to. I mentioned, I thought of his name earlier, and I was like, why do I keep forgetting about him or looking over him? And that's Matthew Stafford. Last season, threw 41 touchdowns. Like you said, Hansel, 17 interceptions to go with it. But yeah, he's the one I keep overlooking. Good quarterback on a good team. He's he's got Cooper Kupp. They now have who's a wide receiver they just signed. Is it Allen Robinson?
Yep.
Mhm.
Allen Robinson. I know there's more on the team that I can't think about him. So, what do you guys think about him?
He'd be in the conversation for sure. The only problem is like because Cooper Kupp got, some people think he got snubbed of MVP last year. I don't think that's the case, but I think Kupp is going to kind of keep him away from the MVP just because people look at Kupp and say, this guy's an absolute monster. And if he puts up another year like he did last year, then Kupp will be pushed ahead of Stafford in the MVP conversation. So I just don't see how Stafford does it without Kupp having a big year. And if Kupp has a big year, Kupp would be the MVP on that team, not Stafford.
The nice thing is for Stafford, that Super Bowl win pretty much just punched his ticket into Canton.
Yeah, he's a Hall of Famer. Yep.
I mean, his stats are ludicrous. I mean, he's a 2-to-1 touchdown to interception quarterback, which is it's outstanding. And he's thrown, all he needs to throw is one pass and it'll be over 50,000 passing yards career. I could see Stafford getting it, but again, Stafford's going to be going against, the Bills, and that first game's going to be huge. The Bills come out and stomp the Rams. That MVP conversation dwindles really quick for Stafford. So I think both of them that first game is going to be very intriguing as to the kind of the pacing for where they're going to be season long.
All righty. Well, I think that sums it up. Yeah, guys good there?
Good.
All right. Chris, thank you again for joining us for the second time. We appreciate your input and your interaction. Always nice when we have someone else talk to besides just each other. Not that we don't enjoy that, but thank you everybody for whoever listens to the podcast version of this. Let us know on Twitter what you think at the Process on Tap Twitter, which is at Process on Tap. My name is Jeremy. You can find me on Twitter at Back of the Herd. You can find Hansel's writings on Cover One. You can find him on Twitter at Uber Hansen. Again, most likely pissing off Dolphins fans. He doesn't sleep. And then your newest podcast, the Uber and Out. Hansel, you want to tell everybody about that real quick?
Yeah, just a quick, short, less than 15-minute podcast once a week on a topic that I'm passionate about that has to do with football. More often than not, they'll be under 10 minutes. So it's a quick listen on Wednesdays.
Cool.
What's it called?
Uber and Out.
Ah, catchy.
Yeah.
I like it.
I'm supposed to ask that during the recording. And you can find Thomas on Twitter at the Thomas DeLoss. Congratulations, you and your wife are expecting, right? You got posted.
Yeah, we're expecting a little baby boy in January. Thank you, appreciate that.
Right
That's
on.
awesome. Just in time for the Bills to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
there you go.
So he's got that going. He also hosts Buffalo Late Night Monday night, right?
Monday 9:30.
Okay. I know we said it at the beginning, but I'm stupid sometimes.
It's okay. I like it. It gives me a chance to plug it real quick. It's good.
Monday. All right. And that's that. Thank you again for listening and for watching, and go Bills.
Go Bills.
Go Bills.